Okay, hello everyone. It's already 4 o'clock, so I think we can start. Thank you very much for dedicating your time to us, that you keep listening to us, participating in our webinars. It is very important for us. Today I'm going to approach a theme of the imperial cities, that is Vienna, Prague and Budapest. This is very popular destination, so I think it may be interesting for you. For us, it is the second most important destination after Poland. My name is Przemysław Gondek in Ernesto Travel Agency. I am responsible for English and Spanish speaking clients and groups. Ernesto Travel is an incoming tour operator to Central Europe, founded in 2006. Ernest Mirosław is the owner and founder of the company. We are members of several Polish organizations and associations of incoming tourism, especially of the Polish Tourism Organization, responsible for the promotion of Poland abroad. The office of our agency is located in Krakow, Poland. We have already done some series of webinars in several languages. We started last year. We have our YouTube channel where you can find the recordings of each webinar. A couple of facts about Austria, Czech Republic and Hungary. The three countries are located in Central Europe. They are neighboring countries. Although they are very different, they have a lot in common, especially the history. They are members of the European Union. The Czech Republic and Hungary have their own currencies, while in Austria there is euro. Now I will tell you about each country, starting with the most important facts in recent history, that is from the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Then we go through the most important monuments of its capitals, and at the end, other cities that stand out in each country. So we start with Austria. The defeat in the First World War leads to the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1918. It is when the Republic of Austria was born, but also Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Poland, among others. In reality, the government of Austria was authoritarian and fascist. This consequently led to Anschluss, the union with Nazi Germany, in 1938. After the defeat in the Second World War, the Allies occupied the Austrian territory. Vienna, the capital, and the rest of the country are divided into 4 occupation zones controlled by the Soviet Union, the United States, the UK, and France. A socialist government was formed with the support and control of the Soviet Union. 10 years later, the 4 powers decided to end the occupation of Austria. In 1955, they signed the Treaty of Peace called the Austrian State Treaty. Since then, Austria becomes an independent, democratic and neutral country. In 1989, after the collapse of communism, Austria increased its participation in European affairs. Therefore, it joins the European Union in 1995. And in 2002, it adopted the European monetary system. Vienna, the capital of Austria and the largest city with a population of almost 2 million, located on the shores of the Danube in the northeast of the country. Vienna has a great historical past. It is defined as a cultural capital, being a city of famous artists such as Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, or Klimt. To explore and fully experience Vienna, you have to dedicate a few days, but if it is a part of a longer itinerary and there is a little time, 1 day is enough to know the basics, which are the district number 1, Innere Stadt, which is the old town with St. Stephens Cathedral, Opera, Hofburg, or City Hall, all surrounded by the Ringstrasse Boulevard. A little away from the city center is Belvedere Palace, about 2 kilometers from the old town, and the Schnbrunn Palace, about 8 kilometers. The Belvedere Palace is the Baroque palace founded by Prince Eugene of Savoy. Today hosts several museums and a hotel. The complex consists of 2 palaces and wonderful gardens on 3 levels. The upper palace, which is the main building, was intended for banquets and celebrations, while the lower palace served as a summer residence. The Church of St. Charles is considered one of the most interesting and outstanding Baroque churches in Vienna. During the epidemic of plague of 1713, Emperor Charles VI promised to the people that when the city were freed from the disease, he would found a temple dedicated to St. Charles Borromeo, who was revered as a healer for plague sufferers. Another very important palace is Schönbrunn. With its gardens, forms a Baroque set of exceptional quality. It is the largest palace in Vienna. It is one of the main historical and cultural buildings in Austria. It has been declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. In 1559, a small hunting palace was built in this place, but was completely destroyed on the Second Siege of Vienna in 1683. A new construction plan was prepared for the new palace. Its realization ended in 1701. During the 18th century, several extensions and modifications were made, and Maria Theresa is the one that turns the palace into the Habsburg summer residence. In 1752, the world's first zoo park was installed in the Schönbrunn Gardens. Schönbrunn Palace Park is open to visitors all year round. The entry is free. The park is decorated with fountains, sculptures, monuments, trees, flowers, and the gloriette. Popularly known as the Versailles of Vienna for its Rococo style interior decoration, there are a total of 1,441 rooms in the Schönbrunn Palace. 45 of them can be visited. Please remember that Schönbrunn Palace is the most visited monument in Austria. Therefore, it is very important to make the reservation in advance. The Cathedral of St. Stephen is one of the symbols of Vienna. Its construction began in the 12th century. It is the most significant Gothic building in Austria. The cathedral has 4 towers and 13 bells. The south tower, with its 136 meters, is the highest one. The interior of the cathedral was in continuous reform until the Baroque period, so it is a mix of styles. Inside we find numerous altars and chapels. We can also see the impacting treasures of the cathedral, like richly decorated relics, custodies, liturgical texts, and books, among others. Many personalities have been buried in St. Stephen's Cathedral. The Emperor Frederick III is buried in an impressive marble sarcophagus. Prince Eugene of Savoy and the Duke of Habsburg Rudolf IV is buried in the catacombs. In the catacombs, we will also find the mausoleums of the cardinals and archbishops of Vienna. Hofburg Palace was the residence of the kings of Austria from the 13th century until 1918, when Charles I, the last emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, abdicated. Originally, Hofburg was a Gothic castle. After several reconstructions through the 8th centuries, the dominant styles are Baroque and Classicism. Currently, Hofburg is the official residence of the President of Austria. It is also an important convention center and a museum with numerous art collections. A Vienna State Opera, built on a request of Franz Joseph I to compete with the Opera Garnier of Paris. It was inaugurated in 1869, and the opening play was Don Giovanni by Mozart. The building is an example of the New Renaissance style. The opera building was the first finished on Ringstrasse Boulevard. In 1945, as a result of the bombing, the building was destroyed and was rebuilt in 1955. The Wiener Prater is a large public park in Vienna. The term Prater is usually used to refer to the Prater amusement park located in the corner of the park, and including the Wiener Riesenrad, a Ferris wheel located at the entrance of the park. Originally, the lands of Prater were dedicated to hunting. In the 18th century, its function has been changed to public entertainment. Salzburg. 20 years ago, the old town of Salzburg was declared a World Cultural Heritage by UNESCO, becoming one of the most visited tourist destinations in Europe. Being located in the Alps, Salzburg is also a winter sports center. It's the city of Mozart. The composer was born and raised there. Among the most popular places in Salzburg are the Hohensalzburg Fortress, the Cathedral, the Mozart Museums, the Getreidegasse Street, or the Schnbrunn Palace. The Cathedral of Salzburg was built in the 17th century in early Baroque style. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was baptized there. The Hohensalzburg Fortress Castle is the Archbishop's residence. From there you can enjoy a splendid view. Innsbruck is famous for its stunning mountain landscape. It is called the heart of the Alps. The cable car ride to the top of the Grube allows you to arrive in less than half an hour from the historical center to over 2,000 meters of altitude. From the top, you can enjoy splendid views both in summer and winter. Innsbruck is also a winter sports center. 2 times the Winter Olympic Games took place in this city. But Innsbruck is also a cultural center with its Hofburg Palace, Ambras Castle, the Ottoburg Tower, and the Wilton Basilica. Here we go to the Czech Republic. We start with the facts of its history. After the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, several states are born, among others the Czechoslovak Republic. In 1920, the first Czechoslovak constitution was established. It was time of political turbulence and instability. The movements for Slovak autonomy were strong. In Czechoslovakia, over 3 million Germans lived unsatisfied for losing their privileges after the disappearance of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Soon comes the Great Depression of 1930 that affects the country. A few million people lose their jobs, and the Slovak nationalist movement is born. Under pressure from the Hitler, Czechoslovakia gives back the Sudets, region populated by the Germans in majority. In consequence, in 1939, Czechoslovakia becomes a satellite of the Nazi regime. The Germans occupy the country, create the protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. President Edvard Beneš flees to London, where he forms a government in exile. In 1945, it becomes again an independent state, but this time under protection of the Soviet Union. In 1989, a revolutionary wave crossed through the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. Political agitation began in Poland by the oppositional solidarity movement and led to a wave of revolutions in other states in the region. The Czechoslovak Revolution is called the Velvet Revolution because there were no victims. It was initiated by the students. They organized a demonstration that was not authorized and was brutally repressed by the army. This caused more demonstrations. The leaders of the opposition, led by Václav Havel, formed a coalition and negotiated the exit of the Communist Party of the government. In 1991, the Soviet troops left the territory of Czechoslovakia. Finally, it resulted impossible to maintain the unity with Slovakia. The two countries separate in 1993. Current Czech Republic and Slovakia were born. In 2004, the Czech Republic joins the European Union. Until today, it keeps its own currency, Czech koruna. Another important city on the road of the imperial cities is Prague, the Czech capital. The tourist area of Prague, where most of the monuments and places of interest are located, is very wide and includes districts such as the Old Town, the Jewish district Josefov, the new city, which remains on the right bank of the Vltava River, and on the left side we have Malá Strana and Hradčany, where the castle is located. A classic guided tour of Prague begins with the uphill ride by bus to the castle. Then the tourists proceed walking down to Malá Strana and crossing the river through the famous Charles Bridge to the Old Town. The castle of Prague is a medieval fortress considered the largest in the world. Built in the 9th century, it is the most important monument in the Czech Republic. The entire complex forms a set of palaces and several buildings connected by streets. One of them is the Cathedral of St. Vitus, a symbol of Prague. The Golden Lane with its small colored houses, the old 9th century royal palace, in addition to the Basilica and St. George's convent. St. Vitus Cathedral is located inside the castle. Its construction began in 14th century by order of John of Luxembourg, and after several ages and different architects, it was finally finished in the 20th century. The cathedral houses the tomb of Wenceslas IV, the jewels of the crown, and was the place of coronation of the kings of Bohemia. During the 11th century, buildings were extended from the castle to the right bank of the Vltava River. At the end of this century, the existence of a market in the current location of the Old Town Square was mentioned for the first time. In the following centuries, Prague continued to grow and acquired the title of city. The square is full of interesting buildings, among others the Church of Our Lady Before Tin, St. Nicholas Church, or the Old Town City Hall. The City Hall is one of the most emblematic buildings in Prague, thanks to the impressive astronomic clock on its side. One of the most famous in the world. The clock mechanism has three main components. The astronomical dial representing the position of the sun and moon in the sky, and displaying various astronomical details. Statues of various Catholic saints stand on either side of the clock, and a calendar dial with medallions representing the months. The clock is still operating. Built in the 14th century, the Church of Our Lady Before Tin is an impressive late Gothic style church. Founded between the houses and narrow streets of the city center, the Church of Tin is the greatest symbol of Prague's Gothic style, and a building with an important history. Its most important part are the impressive towers that exceed 80 meters in height. The Charles Bridge is also one of the symbols of Prague and communicates the old town with Mala Strana. It is 500 meters long and 10 meters wide. It is a pedestrian bridge, even though in its day there was a tram pulled by horses, then an electric tram, and until 1965 there was mobile traffic. Along the Charles Bridge, there are 30 statues located on both sides, many of which are copies, since the originals are located in the National Museum of Prague. The first statue to be added was the one of St. John Nepomuk. John Nepomuk was thrown into the river by order of Wenceslas IV, and then was sanctified. In the Jewish district, Józefów, there are 6 synagogues. In this picture, we can see the old new synagogue, which is the oldest one in Europe, still in operation, and is one of the first Gothic buildings in Prague. It was built in the 13th century. The Wenceslas Square is the center of the new city. It is a place that has been a witness of many of the events in recent history of Prague. It is a traditional place for demonstrations, celebrations, and other public meetings. The square is called so in honor of Saint Wenceslas, the patron of Bohemia, one of the historical regions of the Czech Republic. It looks more a boulevard than a square. The most known monuments of the Wenceslas Square are the National Museum and the statue of Wenceslas. The National Museum is one of the main museums in Prague. It is a neo-Renaissance building located at Wenceslas Square. Its central hall also serves as the pantheon of the great Czechs. In August 1968, after the Spring of Prague, its facade was damaged by the shots from the tanks of the Soviet units that had invaded Prague. Czech Republic has a very strong beer culture. Its breweries have a long tradition, and is the favorite alcoholic drink of Czech people. In Prague, there is a huge variety of restaurants that make their own beer. Some of them have a rich history, continue their tradition, while others are new and use modern methods. In all of them, you can taste the highest quality beer, eat lunch or dinner, and enjoy a live music show. Another important Czech city worth seeing is Brno, the capital of Moravia. The central point of this city is the Square of Liberty with the column of Prague. Other interesting places are the Prague Castle or Villa Tugendhat, which is an example of functionalist architecture and appears on the UNESCO list. Karlovy Vary is a spa city, historically famous for its thermal springs, 13 main springs and a few hundred smaller, and the Tepla River. The city has an interesting architecture. It became a famous tourist destination in the 19th century, especially for international personalities seeking thermal treatments. The city is known for the International Film Festival. Karlovy Vary received this name in honor of the Emperor Charles IV, who founded the city in 1350. Český Krumlov is a small city located in the south of Czech Republic. Its historical center, including its castle, is inscribed on the UNESCO list. The city presents buildings with medieval, Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque architecture, among which highlights its castle and the Baroque theater of the castle. The castle is unusually large for a village of Český Krumlov size. It is the second largest castle in the Czech Republic after Hradčany complex in Prague. Within its walls, there is a great garden and the Church of St. Vitus. Now we go to Hungary. After World War I, Hungary finally obtained its independence from Austria after more than a century of confrontations, but chaos came out. The military communist Bela Kun took power in Hungary for a brief time in 1919, forming the Hungarian Soviet Republic. Bela Kun was finally removed in 1920, and Regent Miklos Horthy took power, reinstalled the monarchy in Hungary, brought order, solved the economic problems of the country, and ruled up until 1944. Adolf Hitler promised to return Hungary the territories they lost in the First World War. The economic pressure and the threats of military intervention forced the Hungarians to support Nazi Germany. And thanks to this alliance, Hungary recovered parts of Czechoslovakia and Romania. Hungary participated in the invasion to Yugoslavia and Russia. At the end of the World War II, Hungary started negotiations with Western allies. In the end, completely occupied by the Soviet armies in 1945, Hungary was devastated. The Soviets created a government with Hungarian General Bela Miklos as a leader. The Hungarian Revolution, it was during the communist period when Hungary tried to break out of Soviet control. After certain protests by discontented workers in Poland, Budapest students gathered during a conference in October 1956, protested against the communist regime and demanded freedom. The protests went to the degree of war. The Soviet government of Moscow declared the war to Hungary and sent a contingent of about 2,000 tanks. The United States promised to help the Hungarian opposition, but the Suez Canal problem appeared almost at the same time and was strategically more important for Americans. After after the end of the Cold War, Hungary initiated an approach to Western Europe. Then democracy was introduced. The Visegrad group was formed in 1993. By this agreement, the heads of state of Hungary, Poland, and Czechoslovakia agreed to contribute to the political, economic development of the three nations and aspirate to join the European Union, what they achieved in 2004. The capital and the largest city of Hungary, with its 1.7 million inhabitants, Budapest, located in the north of the country. It is divided by Danube to Buda and Pest, which until the 19th century were different cities. In the Buda, we can highlight the Fishermans Bastion, St. Matthias Church, the statue of St. Stephen, and the National Palace. Crossing one of the 6 bridges over the Danube, you will visit the Pest, the Opera, the St. Stephen's Basilica, the National Museum, and the Heroes Square. The castle, the Buda Castle, known as the Royal Palace, for having been the residence of the kings of Hungary. It is located on the hill of the castle, forming a complex with St. Matthias Church and the Fisherman's Bastion. In addition to the castle itself, that already deserves a visit, there are currently 2 museums. The Budapest Museum of History and the Hungarian National Gallery. The Buda Castle was built in the 14th century, but it is fundamentally standing out for its constructions from the 19th century. The Fisherman's Bastion is a neo-Gothic and neo-Romantic style terrace, a viewpoint with many stairs and walks situated on the castle hill. The 7 towers that form the assembly represent the 7 major tribes that settled down there in the 9th century. Its name honors the group of fishermen responsible for defending this part of the city walls in the Middle Ages. Just next to the Fisherman's Bastion is the Church of Matthias. It was the place of coronation of the kings of Hungary and the royal weddings. Its origins go back to the 13th century. Its name refers to Matthias I, the king who transformed the church in Renaissance style. The last king crowned in this church was Charles IV in 1916. The Gellert Hill has a height of 235 meters, offers a splendid view on the Danube River, The hill was named after Saint Gerard, who was thrown to death from the hill by the pagans in the 11th century. At the top of the hill, the citadel can be found, a huge military complex, as well as the Gellert Hotel, the Gellert Spa, and the Gellert Hill Church. The parliament is the most representative building in Budapest and one of the most famous in Europe. It is the center of the Hungarian legislature and other institutions. It represents a neo-Gothic style. The reason for the building was the merger in 1873, three Hungarian cities, Buda, Óbudy, and Pest, in one city, Budapest. At that time, the authorities recognized that the new capital needed a new representative residence. The building has over 600 rooms, over 200 offices. 100,000 people worked on the construction site. 40 kilograms gold were used, and 500,000 precious stones, and 40 million bricks. Since 1945, when the Hungarian political system was changed, the building houses only the parliament, which occupies one wing. The other is open to visitors. The largest rooms of the building are the former lower chamber, today's National Assembly, and the former upper house, being a representative conference room. St. Stephens Basilica is the largest religious building in Hungary. Its name honors the first king of Hungary. Vacha Utca, which means Vacha Street, is the most important street in Budapest, along with Andrassy Avenue. This pedestrian street is part of the tourist and commercial heart of Budapest. It is a very elegant street full of shops, cafes, and restaurants. It is full of people during the day and night. The Heroes Square is located in Andrassy Avenue, the most important artery of the city. Its statues represent the founders of the country, the leaders of the 7 tribes. They are the same as represented by the towers of the Fishermans Bastion. The most representative building in the square is the Museum of Fine Arts. The Great Synagogue, or the Dohany Street Synagogue, with its dimensions, is the largest synagogue in Europe. The synagogue was built in the 19th century in the Moorish style. During World War II, the Nazis made the surroundings of the synagogue a Jewish ghetto, soon converted into a concentration camp. From this place, many Jews were sent to extermination camps. Budapest is known as the city of spas. It has about 120 springs of thermal water. Budapest baths have been active since the time of Roman domination. During the Turkish age in the 16th and 17th centuries, major spas were also built. many of which continue to operate. In this photo, we can see the Sacheny Spa, which is one of the largest thermal baths in Europe. The current building was inaugurated in 1913 and has a neo-Gothic style. It has 15 swimming pools, 3 large outdoors and 12 small indoors, where are also several saunas and massage rooms. They are open all year round. The water is about 37 degrees. Saint-André is a small city with a lot of charm and the unique atmosphere. It is known for its galleries, museums, artists. It is located about 20 kilometers from Budapest, so it is perfect for a half-day excursion, even combining with the visit of Budapest. Also, there is possibility to take a Danube cruise from Budapest to Saint-André. The Samos Marzipan Museum is one of the most visited attractions in Saint-André. Also stand out the outdoor museum, the Museum of Wine, or the ruins of Romanian fort. Debrecen is the second largest city in Hungary and is located in the eastern of the country. Debrecen offers several large baths where you can receive prevention and treatment of many diseases. Healing water and the Mediterranean climate have beneficial effects on health. A symbol of Debrecen is the local cathedral in the classic style. It is the largest Hungarian Reformed church. Hortobágy National Park is also here a national treasure inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage list. Esztergom is one of the oldest cities in Hungary and its first capital. This is where Saint Stephen, the first king of Hungary, was baptized and crowned. Esztergom is the seat of the archbishops of Hungary. It is also known as the Hungarian Vatican. The symbol of the city is the Basilica of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Here I show you an exemplary itinerary, a classic program of 8 days and 7 nights. The first day is arrival in Prague, and if the flight time is not too late, some evening activities can be scheduled. Then we dedicate 2 days to visit the city. At night we can offer some extra activities such as typical Prague's Black Theatre show, dinner at a brewery with live music, or a cruise on the Vltava River. The next day is departure to Vienna, which is about 300 kilometers. On the way, we can plan a tour of Český Krumlov or Brno. Then the full day tour of Vienna. In the famous Grinzing district, we can organize a dinner with a tasting of local wines. There is also possibility of organizing tickets to a classic music concert. We leave to Budapest, passing through Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, which is only about 70 kilometers from Vienna. On the road, you can also visit the Basilica of Esztergom. Budapest, as I have already mentioned, can be combined with Szentendre. It is very interesting to take a cruise on the Danube River, even at night, when you can admire the lighted city. This is an example. It all depends on the flights you book. I mean, on the arrival and departure airports. The perfect option is to arrive in Prague and depart from Budapest, or vice versa. So each place is on the way, and you do not need to go back to the same city again during the same trip. If the group has a few more days, I highly recommend including Krakow in the program. Krakow, with its surroundings, has a lot to offer to tourists, among others the Wieliczka salt mine, Wadowice, which is the hometown of John Paul II, Zakopane in Tatra Mountains, Częstochowa Sanctuary, or the Nazi concentration camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope soon we will have opportunity to work together again, that we will travel freely again to know different places and cultures. If you have any questions or comments, please write us an email or leave a message on the chat. Again, thank you very much, and a big hug for all. Goodbye.